I will get us recorded.
Where are you, Richard?
Hold on a second. All right, with luck, you can hear this.
Yeah, we hear you.
All right, sweet, here we go. So welcome to our second Lifetime Arts class. We are really excited to be here with Kayle Dockstader. So let's begin. First off, there are 5 locations that we have people at today. We are here in Kimmer at the Kimmer Senior Center. We are in Cokeville at the Cokeville Branch Library, Afton at the Star Valley Branch Library, Thane at the Thane Branch Library, and Alpine at the Alpine Branch Library. I thank the facilitators at each site for getting us going here. I also have a list of sponsors to thank here. First, I'd like to thank the Lincoln County Library Foundation for the grant to host these programs. I'd like to thank the Senior Center here in Kimmer for allowing us to take over. Lincoln County Library System and all the staff for doing what they do. Also need to thank Lifetime Arts in cooperation with the May and Stanley Smith Charitable Trust. At any time throughout this program, if you have questions, please contact myself or one of your facilitators at your sites with concerns or questions, and we will get those addressed as soon as possible. The supplies, again, are all going to be supplied through the Lincoln County Library Foundation and the Lifetime Arts. Most supplies will stay here until the conclusion of the class sometime in early March. With any luck, we won't have any more snow days. So thank you for delaying this 1 week. And I believe, Kayle, we haven't talked to you, but are you still good for March 3rd for a art gala?
Yes, that sounds good.
Okay, sweet. So I'm going to turn it over now to Melissa to introduce our artist.
Okay, everybody see me? I got to make sure I'm looking at the right camera. We've got quite the setup going on over here. All right, so I am Melissa Hatterley, the branch manager here at the Star Valley Branch Library. And I want to introduce everybody to Kayle Dockstader, who is so awesome to be our painting instructor for this session of our Lifetime Arts classes. A few things about Kayle is that she grew up in Thane, so she's from Star Valley. She went to Star Valley High School. She went to BYU, Idaho, and got her Bachelor's Arts in Studio Arts, right? Yes, Studio Arts. She has 4 kids here in Star Valley, and some of her work, you might be able to buy it from the Star Valley Mercantile. She also does private art lessons. So if you want more later on, you might give her an email and contact her for that. All right, without further ado, I'm going to turn the time over to Kayle.
Thank you. See if I can get this microphone on, right? Okay. So welcome, everybody. I am super excited about this. This is kind of a new format for me to do it online. So we'll see how this goes. So the most important thing, though, is if you have a question, ask the question. Because where I can't walk around and be seeing your work individually, it's really going to be important that you guys ask questions when you have them, okay? So this class that I've designed for this, I called it painting process because, okay, so the goal for this class isn't for you guys to be professional painters when we're done. The goal is that you have an overview of the whole process so that when you go back and practice later, that you can practice with purpose. That is the best to improve quickly, is to know what you're doing and why, so you can practice in specific areas and you know what that's going to do for your painting. When I was in college, I always felt like we would do things and it's like, but how does this apply? And I kind of had to figure out my own process. So that's what I'm teaching you today is my process. Now, you'll find a lot of other professional artists have a very similar process. They might do a few things differently, and we're going to do a few things differently here just because, just so that we can have more experience painting. And I'll explain all those things as we go. So please don't expect too much of yourself right away. Hello. Thanks. It does take a long time to learn oil painting. So the point of this class, remember, is foundation. Yeah, sorry, I have my little cards here so I can keep track of what I'm saying. Okay, so my first thing that I want to do is I want to go over the supplies that you guys will be getting. So first, we have your paint. Now, this is one of the coolest things about this class that you guys get to have. Oil paint is super expensive, and you guys get a whole set, and this set is awesome. These are a lot of the colors that I use in my own palette at home. So as we get to color, we'll go over all these, but no, you should have this set and you will get an extra white. This is important because a lot of colors use white, and I always run out of white first. So that's why you have that. Then we have your brush set. Now this brush set is pretty awesome. You can see that. I'll walk a little closer. They're a little bit big for our canvases, but they're going to be awesome. Big brushes, I don't want you to be afraid of because you can cover more area quickly and it's great. So yeah, we'll talk more about all that when we get to it too. So you have your brush set. This is called Gamasol. This helps us to clean our brushes and to kind of like paint thinner a little bit. But this is a little bit less smelly. It works pretty good. So this jar that you'll get, and you'll get this paint, this will go in your jar and you will clean. And I'll teach you again, when we actually pull out the paint, I'll teach you all the cleaning how-tos, okay? And then we'll have paper towels for everybody. So you'll get one of these. This is a budget way to make a painting palette. So when an oil painting is displayed, it doesn't have glass on it. So what I do at home is I'll buy a frame that's the size that I want for a painting that I'm doing. And I'll take the frame off, and then I use the glass and the backing, and I tape them together and I make a palette. So just working on glass is really, really great. So we'll have packing tape. So when we pull out our paint for the first time, we'll take this apart and we'll tape the edges. So we'll have just glass to work on, and it works super great, and it's a lot less expensive. Let's see. Palette knife also. This is what we will use for mixing our paints. An apron. We do have. We'll have aprons. Oil paint does not come out of clothes very easily, so highly recommend wear an apron. I have a few students who've ruined a few clothes. Okay, so then we have dish soap. So this again, we will teach you about cleaning the brushes, but it's very, very important. Dish soap is a very important part of the cleaning process. Canvases, we should have 2 little ones and then this 8x10 size. So you'll get those. And let's see. We should have normal pencils that we'll be using today. We'll have charcoal pencils that we will use later in our process.
Black pencil today. Sorry.
Reference photos. On your tables, you should have reference photos. If you get a chance to look at those, just kind of be thinking which ones you might want to do. So there's 2 sets. There's a black and white and a color photo of each still life. So these are still lifes that I actually got from the internet because they were composed very well. I tried to get in contact with the owners of the photos, but we get to use them because they are, this is an educational thing, but just keep in mind, you won't be able to sell these paintings. I apologize, but these were really great still lifes that they're really beautiful, I think. So be looking at which one you think you might want to paint. And then we have rubber gloves. Did we get rubber gloves? Okay. Oh, I think that's something I might have said to bring from home. So if you are sensitive to chemicals or anything, you'll want to wear rubber gloves just because of the oil in the paint and the chemicals used to make them and the cleaners and stuff. It's just a good idea to wear rubber gloves, especially if you're sensitive at all. I personally don't like to wear them, but it's one of those things that I'm like, I should wear them. It will just protect you. You also have a kneaded eraser. These are super fun. If you have them, you might want to just open them up and kind of start playing with them and stretching them. They work best when they're warm. So if you can start like playing with it, it'll be nice and warm and ready to go. And I think here's the one. There's a third one right there.
And Kaylee?
Yes?
This is Richard. I believe that you have enough canvases. There's 3 8x10s and 2 of the 4x6s. Is that correct?
I think we asked for 1 8x10 and 2 4x6s. Did we get extra?
Oh, you got lots extra then. So enjoy.
That's great. If anyone wants to do more than one, they can. Or if they don't want to paint small, they would be welcome to use a bigger one also.
Perfect.
Oh yeah, and they can take it home for future paintings also. So that's great. No problem there. Okay. Another thing that you will have is a razor blade. The purpose of this is for cleaning paint off the palette. So when we're working, it's hard to like scrub it off, especially if it gets a little dry. So just like you would scrape, stickers off a window or whatever, we scrape paint off of the palette with the razor blade. It works really well. And I think other than that, so we'll have access to saran wrap for the end of the classes. So what we do is we will take your palette when you're done working, wrap it in saran wrap and stick it in the freezer. And this preserves the paint for the next time. So then we'll pull it out of the freezer and it doesn't take it very long to get soft again. And then that way we don't waste paint. That way we can make your paint last as long as it can so you can use it again. I learned this trick a couple years ago and it would have saved me so much money. So that's a very good one. Did you have a? Okay. Great. So you'll have a bag that looks like this. And so we'll stick all your supplies in it and with your name on it. We will have to keep the pallets in a freezer, but hopefully that will be able to tell as soon as we can write names on the back or something. Yeah, perfect. Yeah, great. Okay. So can we flip to the slideshow where it says lesson 1? Great, so we'll skip forward 2 slides. One more. Okay, so the first thing that I want to start out with is basic drawing. The very important part of painting is obviously being able to draw what it is that you're painting. Now, most of the time you won't see a painter, well, depending on who it is, most of the time you won't see a painter just start throwing paint on the canvas, right? It's a process. So the first thing in my process, sorry, hit the microphone, is drawing. Now there is another step that I will talk about on the next lesson, but what we do is we draw. What I always tell my students is big basic shapes, big basic shapes. So if you look at any object around you, you can look at anything. They're all made out of simple shapes, right? You can look at the bookshelf and it's rectangles, and you can look at a chair and it's a couple of squares. Like if you simplify in your mind what it is that you're drawing, it makes it so much easier. So my example on the lesson on the slide is, so this is just a ketchup bottle, and they built that shape with a couple of rectangles and a half circle. Okay, so I'm gonna sit down. So, well, this picture on the slide on the right, this is kind of what we're looking for under a painting. It's not going to be necessarily super detailed, but it has the information that we need, and it's an accurate drawing. That's what you want for underneath. So that's just an example. So I'm going to sit down. Oh, I keep bumping the table. Okay. Yes, that would be great. I just have to excuse me if I cough once in a while. So I'm hoping you can see my paper. Oh, yeah. I don't know how all this works. Melissa's so good to get this all set up. Okay. Okay, now hopefully everybody can see that. So I have a reference picture. You can choose whichever one you want, obviously. Actually, let me show you an example first. Let me see. Maybe I'll start with. Okay, so what I do is I like to think, I think big and I think small. So my first thought is I want my picture to take up this much of my paper. That's super basic. It's just a circle. And then from there, I think, okay, my pot here is about this big. I have a bowl with some oranges and the edge of the table and the tablecloth. Super basic, right? Now, obviously, this does not look like a very fabulous drawing, right? Can you see that? Oh, you guys are so nice. Okay, so from here, we have a couple of different strategies. Let me reach my thing of how to draw accurately. So obviously, first is my big basic shapes. This is a guide for me to follow. This gives me a better idea of size. Have you ever started drawing something and it's either way too big for your paper or it's way too small on your paper? That can be so frustrating. So this helps with that. It helps you know space-wise what you're taking up. Then from there, you're just going to refine your drawing more and more. So from here, for example, there's several, I'm trying to think how to so we can also measure, and we can also use plumb lines in our drawing. So what I generally do is I pick something to draw that I can just kind of refine right now. So like, for example, I'm going to take this shape of the pot and I'm going to try to make it better, more accurate based on what I'm seeing. Okay. Now what I'm going to do, let me see if I've got most of my details in there, just for this shape. Now I'm going to use that to measure everything else. So I can look and pull my.
Excuse us for a moment.
Over. I can look at this pot and I look at this line and I can say that spout is about about a quarter down this edge. So I can look at this edge and I can say, well, maybe right there is a little better spot. Okay. Now I'm going to look and say, how does this space compare to what I'm seeing in my picture? Oh, maybe it needs to be a little bit shorter. So I'm going to mark that spot. That's where I want my bowl to actually line up on my image. So you're just kind of measuring and trying to locate where you want things to be. So I jump around a lot when I'm drawing. I'm kind of going to focus on marks on my pot. So is it clear enough? I'm trying to draw dark. Generally, when you're first drawing, you want to keep it light because it's easier to erase and fix mistakes. For the purpose of this, I am drawing with a really dark pencil, but you'll just be drawing with your normal pencil, but remember to kind of keep it light. Is everyone seeing?
Yeah. Is it any better?
Camera, are you projecting onto a screen?
Yes.
Really dark. Okay. So Camera, I'm gonna try, I'm gonna kind of continue with this and then I'm gonna go back over it really dark. So hopefully you can see, okay? So what I want to say is that I'm looking at my image and I am looking and I'm marking locations of where things line up with each other. I always like to check horizontal lines and vertical lines. So on this one, I'm looking at my pot and it's not halfway, it's less than halfway. So I'm looking, and I could probably even move that over a little bit more. Here, let me try and make these darker. Can you, is it glaring? Any better? Okay. Is that better, Kemmer? Kemmer, let us know if that's any better. I'm going to continue, but just type in the comments if it's helping. Okay, so the orange, I'm looking at the pot and it's over halfway. So I'm looking at my pot and my orange should actually come clear out to here, the edge. See how that's different than what I had drawn originally? So I'm going to look and I'm kind of, sometimes it's guessing and sometimes it's measuring. Then I can just fill in. So you don't need to worry very much about being messy with your drawings because we can always clean them up later. I've always had teachers that say, I need to find the wrong lines before you can find the right lines. So now I'm looking at my orange and where my pot's coming down and I'm saying, oh, I need to move that line up. So I'm just looking for connections and finding, now I can say, where does the spout line up? Now the edge of the handle is a little bit lower. So if you draw lines across, it's super helpful. We call those plumb lines. So I can see if I draw a line there, I know that my handle actually starts a little bit lower. So I'm marking that. I'm looking at the bottom. I should have had my eraser out. This line doesn't count. Now I'm comparing and looking at the details. I want my edge of my handle. See how that's so different than what my original just throwing it on the paper was? But I have something to compare to now. So then I'm going to look at how so using your pencil as a measuring tool is really good also. So I'm going to measure the edge and mark it with my finger. And I can compare and say, that's my handle, the light side is about halfway if I measure that. So I'll measure this part of my pot. I'm going to bring it over, and I know the inside edge of my handle should be about right there. And then it's just kind of connecting the dots almost. If you've ever done any of those connect the dots pictures, it kind of feels like that. Which ones are reflecting? Let me see. Maybe we can send this picture over. Okay. So you're going to continue with that for your whole picture. Now, I don't know if you guys have canvases yet, but it's a good idea where your canvas isn't the same size as your paper is going to be. If you want to trace your canvas on your paper before you start drawing, this gives you an idea of where the edges are. So as you're arranging things, you have an idea of actually the size that you're working with. Now, I would use the big canvas. So this picture is going to be what we transfer over to our big canvas. So I want you to try to do your best on it. Our little canvases will be working with learning how to do black and white and learning how to figure out our colors. So you will draw it on there, but we want the best drawing to be on the big one. So I would make it the size of your bigger canvas, which should be 8 by 10. So you should have room to trace it on your paper if you have it. If not, just keep in mind that it will be, your canvas is a little bit smaller than a piece of paper. Oh, good. Okay. So now, as I'm looking at this, it's still not perfect. It takes a little bit of like drawing the other stuff, and something looks off and figuring it out as you go. So this will take some time. It does get easier with practice. So don't get discouraged. Just keep going and keep comparing and measuring, and you will get to where it's accurate. Now, this is where I wish I could be there in person with all of you, because I could walk around and say, check this, check this. So you're really going to have to be careful about looking and intentionally measuring things. Okay. So that's just what I'm doing, is I'm just looking, measuring, and it does take practice. Sometimes it might look like I'm not measuring, but that's just because I've practiced this so much that it just kind of happens. And that's the idea with drawing, is that you'll get so good at observing that these things will come naturally. Now, one thing I want to point out is drawing from a photo is a lot different than drawing from life. So have you ever seen, here, let me stand up for this part. Sometimes on TV or in movies, you'll see like people like, oh, you're, can you see me? Sorry, I'll switch for a minute. So sometimes on movies and things, you'll see people like painters, and they'll have their brush or their pencil, and they're like, looking at stuff. That's because they're drawing from life, and they're using their pencil or their paintbrush as a measuring tool. So someone might be drawing a person, and they're measuring, okay, their head is about this big on my pencil when I hold it out, and they're 7 heads tall. That's a very common thing that you'll hear people talk about. Or they're comparing their heights to their width to make sure that they're drawing accurately and in proportion. So that's what they're doing. So we won't be doing a lot of that with this, because we're drawing from a photo. But if you want to practice at home and look at something across the room, use your pencil. You close your eye and you look and you measure something with it, and then you have a measurement that you can compare to something else. I hope that makes sense. Does that make sense? Okay. So back to our drawing here. Right, so I'm trying to decide how long I should talk and how long I should let you guys just go for it, because a lot of this process is just having time to just try it. So if you feel like you're ready to get started, go ahead. With this image, one thing you'll want to be careful of is this oval right here. Obviously my oval here is off, but that's probably one of the more difficult shapes you'll have to draw, is this oval. So with an ellipse, you really, so if you notice, I'm not drawing a lot like this, and the ellipse is a good point. If you kind of back up on your pencil a little bit, sometimes turning it sideways, you can use your natural hinges in your hands. What was that? Oh, sorry. Natural hinges in your hands and your wrists to help you make the curved shapes. So don't be afraid to like let it get messy. Like I said, you have to find the wrong line before you can find the right line. Even though that's looking super messy, it's looking more accurate than my first one. Okay, so now you can measure angles. So any type of lines, the extra lines that you can draw are helpful. So I could draw a line from the edge of the spout to the edge of the bowl, and I can compare the angle from my photo. This one. So if I measure this angle, then I can move my paper and I say, oh, my bowl actually needs to come out to here to match the angle. So there's all different kinds of ways that you can measure to get an accurate drawing. So any questions so far?
So I think tonight we're just gonna draw.
Okay.
You
Hold up, we've got a question here at Star Valley.
Okay, so I'll do this question I heard first. So if your picture is the same direction, okay, so I'm going to use my pencil and I can see that angle, right? Then I can move it and then I can match the angle. Now, this takes a lot of adjusting, so don't get frustrated. Just keep looking for different ways you compare. If something's off, erase that little something and fix it, and eventually we'll get to a really beautiful drawing that's accurate. Okay. Now, what was the question? Other question?
Was there a question, Richard?
This is Richard in Kimmer. We have a question about the size. Do you want to stay true to size, more true to size, or do you want to scale it down?
So it's all about the size of your canvas and how big that you want it on your canvas. Here, let me grab one. So this is the bigger size of canvas that we're working with. So if I were to trace this on my paper, then this is about the size that it's going to be. Now, I did this for, in my opinion, this is a bit small. I would increase the size, but it's up to you on how you want to arrange it. This person in this photo arranged it for these elements to be a little on the smaller side. But as you can see in, can you see that? No, it's too big. Let me come over here. Okay, so this one, I for mine, I did it a little bit bigger because I wanted it to fill more space. That's a personal choice. So it's up to you how big you do it. The measuring techniques, it shouldn't matter if it's smaller or bigger. If you use that angled line, it will be the same whether your picture is smaller or your picture is bigger. So that is totally your choice on how you want to arrange it on your paper. Does that make sense?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Great.
Any other
So,
questions?
see if I missed anything. So just a little more about plumb lines. When I'm talking about plumb lines, it's all these extra lines that I usually end up drawing all over my picture because they're just ways to compare with things. Like, here's another one. Here's where the edge of my bowl should be, but look at the image. The edge of the table and the edge of the bowl are really different. So I know that that's gonna come in for the edge of the table. But if I look at the edge of the fabric, that's pretty close to right lined up there. So there, that is helping me find where my bowl will be. So your tools for this are big basic shapes, measuring, plumb lines, and if you do all three of those things, you should end up with a pretty accurate drawing. So I think we're ready now to take some time and get to our drawings. Is there any questions before we let everybody start working? Yes, that is the goal. Oh, sorry. We are going to, the question was, are we going to transfer this drawing onto our canvases? And the answer is yes for the big one. For the smaller one, we would have to make a smaller photocopy to do that. So my plan is that you'll quickly draw on the smaller canvases. But this one, the one that I want you to do your absolute best on, this one will be directly transferred to our canvas. And I'll show you how to do that when the time comes. So if you want to try both pictures and decide which one you like best, that's a good idea. You just have some choices here of what you want to do. So just take your time, measure, use plumb lines, big basic shapes. Okay? Any other questions before I let you guys start working? Okay, so you're basically going to do just what I did. You're going to take your big canvas, if you have it, you can trace it on so you have an idea of spacing. Then I want you to be thinking, take your reference pictures and decide how large you want it. That's where your first big shape comes from. Then build out your objects with simple shapes, and then start measuring and using plumb lines and try to get a really accurate drawing. Now, if you finish one drawing, go ahead and try the other reference picture, and then you can decide which one you like best that you want to move forward with. Okay, and if you have any questions as you're drawing, just let us know. And even if someone wants to hold up their picture and ask a specific question, that's fine too. Whatever you need, I'm here to answer any questions, okay? Okay. If we want to, so I'm gonna, if we go to the slideshow, I have some sample, here's something I should show you. So even I can make mistakes with my drawing. And as you go through this whole process, you'll notice things later as you've spent time away from your picture. You'll notice things like, oh, I need to fix that. So I'm going to show you an example. Go a couple of slides over where it talks about the assignment. That one. So this is the examples of the drawings that I did for these paintings. Now notice my teapot and this one is really fat. Now, for whatever reason, I didn't catch that when I was first doing it. But as I was painting and transferring to my canvas, then I noticed and I was able to fix it. So even if you have a mistake in your drawing now, that doesn't mean you won't be able to fix it later. So just keep that in mind. Is there any specific picture or image or drawing that you want to see on the screen while you're working? We could keep that slideshow image up if you'd like, or I can put some of the finished pictures. Any opinion on that? This one or the one that was on there? Yeah, maybe we should go back to the slideshow because that will show the finished drawings that they can look at. Great one. Except for my fat teapot is a little embarrassing. Oh, good. Okay. Because I'm like, I'm afraid I'll miss a question. Keep that in mind. I'll try not to say anything embarrassing. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. Mm-hmm. You're a quick thinker. Right. Yeah, I didn't think about the light glaring. Yeah, I'll wait a while and then I'll look. Okay. They're not Is everybody doing okay? Any questions yet? Just remember, it just takes practice, and don't get frustrated if it's not going your way. That's why we have multiple pieces of paper and we have erasers, and it's just we're learning, and so we can just figure it out. Wrong lines help you find right lines. Richard, I like that you're showing people's work. It looks good. It is hard to see the pencil on the camera. Yeah, good. Good job on the measuring. Okay, I just wanted to bring up, we had a question. It can look really overwhelming to look at all this, right? There we go. To look at the photo, it might feel a little bit overwhelming with all the shadows and everything. So if there's a really dark shadow, I might would draw that in, but don't worry about that. We really want to just focus on the shapes of the objects, because we can deal with the shadows and stuff later, which we will do next time actually. But just really focus on the shapes of the objects. Okay. Oh, okay. Let me pull up on this one, the pear is a good example. So I'm going to focus really strongly on this shape of the pear, but where a lot of this is shadow, I might draw in this shape to make sure it's just another thing to measure off of, but I'm not necessarily going to worry about drawing in the super dark side. I just want to get the basic shapes so I can make sure it's drawn accurately. Oh, was there a question on the chat? Oh, okay. Like this isn't right, but I don't know how to present it. Okay, so pick something in your painting or drawing that you can measure from. So even if it's just this grape. So you can say, well, if this grape is this big, then this is 3 grapes wide,
Oh, okay.
right? So just pick something that's constant. So
Put a grape there first that I can.
so I always try to pick one thing that I'm going to draw really, really well at the beginning. Then I can measure everything else off of it.
I was trying to draw the picture. Kind of really, really good. That's my really, really good here.
It is really good. That is a great shape. So,
But I can't figure out how to measure the hair, like wide it is really even.
right. So in this case, I would
it's
probably
round,
just take
probably.
something smaller. Like if you tried to measure over from your really good pear and try to get placement really good,
Oh,
then you can use the placement and the size of the grape to measure, and you can use the size of the grape to compare or you can just compare width and height. Like this is the width, this is the height. It's just a little bit shorter than it is fat, right? So if you, it's not bad, because if it's that wide, let me go down there. Yeah, that's pretty good. You did do a great job on the pear.
probably, thank you. We'll probably just do then the angle measurements, like you said.
Yeah,
grape,
and compare. Then
look
you'll
at the
have your
picture.
placement of the grape in comparison to the pear, which then you'll have a better idea for the shape of the picture.
All right. That
Okay, Kaylee, could you show us your sketch again that you were working on? Mhm. Thank you.
So this is what you wanted to see, right?
Yes, they just wanted to see if you put any shading in or if it was real whether you wanted just the basic outline.
Okay, so we were just actually talking about this here. So drawing for painting and drawing for drawing is different. You're not going to be displaying this. This is a guide to follow that's underneath your painting. So you don't have to worry about shading. It doesn't have to be necessarily super beautiful. It just has to be drawn accurately, because that's what will be your guide under your painting.
We are
Does that
very
make sense?
thankful that yes, we're very thankful. It doesn't have to be beautiful.
Well, yeah, I tend to be very, very messy with my drawings because it just takes a bit to figure it out. So
Yep. Thank you.
you're welcome. Hey, if anybody wants to come up to the camera and specifically show me their drawing, if they have any specific questions or want any feedback, that would be great too. We probably have 15, 20-ish minutes. So if you have any specific questions, it'd be great.
Oh,
Great. That's looking really good.
okay, we're not echoing now. Bill has a question here for you.
Well, I'm not to scale here. You know, I don't,
Okay.
it looks like I'm gonna have to erase the whole basket to bring that up. That's too big. Any suggestions?
So yes, so this is the process where, yeah, there will be erasing and stuff. So I would check your angles. So check your angles, not just your angle, but also your spacing between your pot and your top orange. And that will give you an idea of the scale. So if you look at, let me pull this up. If you look at this negative space right here, see this shape?
Right?
So when
Right-
I'm
right
looking at
here.
yours,
Yeah.
I'm seeing your orange is clear over to here. So maybe just
Oh.
shrinking that orange might help, but try
Your
to
orange
look
is off,
at this
yours off
negative
proportion.
space.
So I need to. I don't
Yeah.
like that eraser. It doesn't do
Okay. We might have to have a eraser tutorial too.
On your research tutorial, yeah.
All right.
That's not a bad idea. Maybe I'll borrow one and show you. Can I borrow? Thank you. So with the erasers,
There you go.
they're kind of big. Let me sit down. So you can pull it apart or whatever if you need it to be smaller. So what I like to do is I'll roll it and I'll kind of make it pointy so I can really get in and erase where I want to.
Oh,
Okay, that makes sense.
It's really useful because you can use it to erase big areas quickly, or you can get into those really detailed areas with it because you can shape it however you want.
nice. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Try to put these reflections in, if we're gonna use this as a reference, to kind of pencil 'em in or something.
Sorry,
Did
can I
you
have
hear-
you repeat that?
Did you hear that?
It was
The
just a little quiet.
reflections on the grapes. Should I try to put those on my my drawing, so I can see where they're supposed to be when I paint?
I wouldn't worry about that yet. I would just focus on the circles because that's the main shape that we're following. All those
Okay.
little finite details will come later. We won't actually focus on that until like the last step.
Okay.
Hey, Barbara.
I can't get the little spout on the little picture. Can't
Okay.
seem to get that.
Any suggestions for how she can get
So
that to
what
look
I
right?
do is I try to break it down into lines.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Let me pull out a
And
different paper.
I kind of tried, but I didn't do very well. I tried using my pencil, but
Right.
I didn't.
And you did
quite
all
get
that
it.
very well. You're doing good. It doesn't look as bad as you think it does. So I look for, I'm gonna actually draw on this. There's really subtle differences
Uh-huh. Yeah.
in the angle.
Yes.
So you want to measure the location of the end, make sure that's
Okay.
in the right place. But
Okay.
then just break all these down into simple lines.
Okay. All
Does
right.
that make sense?
Yeah,
But if I
it
draw
does.
those straight lines on there,
Mm-hmm.
it just simplifies that shape a little.
Okay. Yeah, I'll try that.
That was a good.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Picture perfect, Iris.
Oh, yeah, right. Richard, you're so kind.
They are looking really good, you guys. Other than today, who didn't use them much.
I'm going for abstract on this one. Thank you, Kaylee.
Okay, Thane or Cokeville or Alpine, do you want to go around and show anyone that needs help?
We're good in Cokeville. Thank you.
Great. Thane, did you want some help? We just have to have you unmute.
It on the camera. The camera for some reason isn't picking us up. Now we're over here.
I
Oh.
can see you.
Okay. Let's see, can you see it?
It's kind of light. Maybe hold it a little closer
Let me see.
and then, yeah.
Really?
Good.
You see it?
Yeah, I can see the pear. I can see the grapes. It's looking good.
Okay. Okay.
Very good.
I don't think we have anything else.
Nothing else?
No. We're
Okay.
still working.
Oh, yep. You're doing really good. It does. That's true. No judgment here.
Measuring from that pole to
Nobody's
this.
judging it.
Okay. It's close.
It is good. I will suggest here
Mhm.
that instead of this being curved,
Okay.
notice how, because
It's almost.
it's like
straight.
eye level, it looks straight.
Yeah.
So this part is good and curved, but just straighten out this
Okay.
line and this line.
Okay.
And even though it just has to do with perspective,
This too.
this one is good to be curved because it's below eye level. So that's like a super technical thing, but even when it's a circle, when it's at eye level, it's straight. So the bottom is below, so it's more curved. Does that make sense? Hmm. Yeah, just kind of like how that looks more straight in the picture. Wendy, is there anyone in your group that needs any help or anything? Anyone you want to show?
Hey, yes. I don't know if you can see this. Oh, there we go. Having
looks
some trouble
great.
with the table angle down here.
Right, so
Like
that
this bit.
part is fabric. So in the photo, it kind of, it's fabric. So it's not like super specific that it has to be. So your drawing looks really good to that. What I did in mine is I added a little bit Can you see that? I added a little bit of an angle in there because I
Oh,
felt
okay.
like it was sticking out funny. So I kind of connected it and I just made it a little darker so it didn't change the shape of the table, but it kind of made that angle not feel weird.
Okay. Yep.
That's how I chose to handle it. It's up to you. It
Okay.
looks, your drawing looks good. It looks very similar to the picture, to the
Okay.
photo.
Okay, thanks.
Mm-hmm. Anyone else in Alpine want any help? Okay, so some of you are finishing up. If you have extra time, you're welcome, when you're happy with your drawing, you're welcome to put your things together in your bags. There might be some supplies that we need to divide out into the bags. You're welcome to do that. Yeah, we're about there on time. So if you're done, you're welcome to kind of get that stuff together. So switch the camera. Yeah, basically. Great. So next week, what we'll be talking about is value and composition. So next week, we will be breaking out the paints, not colors yet, but white and black, and we'll be talking about value. Okay. It's going to be really fun, and it'll be your first time actually painting. So it'll be a good one. Okay, sneak peek. Okay, so what I do is I turn my picture over and I color on the back with, in this case, we'll use charcoal because charcoal works under oil paint. Normal pencil does not. So you'll color on the back with charcoal, and then we flip it over on the canvas, and then we go over our drawing. And when you take it off, the drawing is on the canvas. Does that make sense? It's a really great way to transfer. Some materials work better than others, but when I transfer my drawings to canvas, I do it that way all the time. Good question.
So this is the top of the.
Yes, it
So I
is.
need to bring this down.
Yeah, it'll come all the way across. The reason it's not super clear is because this is
Yeah.
fabric, it's soft.
Yeah.
So you kind of just have to use your judgment to know, because it's about
About
right in
where it's
here.
at.
Yeah, so I would bring this all the way across.
So should I take this out?
I would. No, you're fine. Good question. Right?
Okay, everybody, thanks so much for joining us. Richard, did you have any final parting words that you wanted to share with the group?
Thank you to Kaylee again. This is a wonderful class. We are thoroughly enjoying it here. So thank you. Guys, have a great week, and we'll see you next week.
All right, guys, we'll keep this picture up for just a little bit longer, but you are free to go, and we'll see you next week at 4:30.
I can have your attention for just a second. Monday at the city council meeting, we got a report from the police. There's no problems of any type, but their amount of calls, because of all the people that are in town now, are going way up from 200 to like 500. So just what I'm gonna ask you is, I'm being a next cop, just please be aware when you go outside, be aware of your surroundings, be aware of what's around you. Don't take any unnecessary chances. There's so far there's no reason to hit the panic button, other than the fact that I'm out there. You have to worry about me, but other than that, seriously, I think just be aware of your surroundings, if you would, because we're gonna have, as time marches on, we're gonna have tons of people, kind of like when I wasn't here for Exxon, but I'm not just gonna be real similar to the same thing. So just be aware of it, especially as a woman, and not that I'm sexist or whatever, but I mean, I'm an old man, so we can take advantage of me too. So just keep that in mind, please. Okay. I will see you next week. Sure. Oh.
They come to 7,500. We have labor and that. Yeah, that's what they.
Got the level.
Yeah.